Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday. You know what today is? Monday morning chats with Sack, and Sack is me. I hope that you guys had a great weekend. Listen, I had a great weekend, but last week was just a lot. And so I had to meet a deadline last Tuesday for a draft of my article. And it is coming together, which I'm happy about. And I'm actually presenting it, oh my gosh, next week. So I have to work on the presentation this week and next week and get ready for feedback. So the one thing about the Legal Academy is that we have what's called like writing workshops, and sometimes you go to different law schools to present your article. And when you're presenting your article, it's pretty much about research that you have done. And that's pretty much how we get paid, right? We pretty much get paid not to just teach, but also produce scholarly articles that gets published. So the more articles you get published, that can equate to like a promotion and other things, and for your work to be displayed in various spaces. And so that's the goal. So this is my first scholarly article that I'm working on since I entered the Legal Academy. I do have a scholarly article that was published, but that was in law school, and that was actually like 10 years ago. And so it's almost the same process, but when I was in law school, it was a lot easier. I just had to focus on my paper. But now I'm working, I have all these other leadership positions, and I realized, hey, this does take time. But I do love what I'm researching, and it's about gentrification in minority neighborhoods, specifically black neighborhoods. Let's be clear, black neighborhoods, and how it's really affecting the property assessment, which is used to determine how much property taxes that homeowners should pay. And it's a big issue. And if you like look at CNN and other news channels, the home ownership rate for African Americans is extremely low compared to white Americans. And so I talk about those disparities within an article. So I look forward to it being completed, and that way I can just share all my thoughts. To everyone, and I just look forward to like feedback and just educating folks, because there are some things that people don't know as it relates to home ownership and assessment and things of that sort. Another thing, I went to a gala for my law school. Now, it was called gala, so I attend a lot of galas. I started attending gala since I was in law school, so I'm very familiar with black tie attire and dressing up. Like, I got exposed to those things. I got exposed to those things in high school. So I went to high school in Florida for 2 years. So we had black tie events where I had to dress up. And it was not just for homecoming, but for other events. And then when I entered law school, I started going to more prestigious galas, and I know what the attire is like. But this gala was different. At first it was semi-formal, and then they changed the attire the day before. Now mind you, I was just like so stuck on meeting this Tuesday deadline, trying to decompress the next day and work on other stuff for my students because I had class. I did not read the other email. So I came to this gala dressed, and as soon as I walked in, I was like, what the hell? And one of my colleagues was like, I know you, and I know that the moment you saw gala, she was like, I know you was gonna show out. And I was like, look, I'm about to get the hell out of here. It's like, no, you drove an hour to get here. I was like, oh, it's not a problem. It's like, no. And then my students saw me, and it was like, oh my God, Professor Tillman, is that you? Because I had my makeup done. I did my own makeup, and I'm rarely, made up in school. Like, I think once I started to have this facial routine, my face got clearer, and I rarely wear it. And they're like, oh my God, Professor Tillman, you look amazing, and you should just stay. So I stayed for the gala. The food was great, and then I left. I was exhausted, like just long day. But I've learned that if I had to learn something from that experience, to make sure you just double check emails, because you just never know if something changes at the last minute. I also went to a sneaker ball that one of our student organizations hosted. It was so great. Got a chance to see more students. The students that I had that's currently in my class, they were so nervous to see me. Well, one, I went to, was like, hey, it's Professor Tillman. He was like, oh my God, Professor Tillman. I was like, listen, have a great time. Act like I'm not here. No worries. There's no judgment. You're fine. And they felt comfortable. Because, it's one of those things where my students had the utmost respect for me. And they would never do anything to be disrespectful in my face. And some of them are older than me. So they are very, very respectful. Very, very respectful. And they hold me to high regard. One of my students told my best friends that came with me, she was like, Professor Tillman is fair, but very stern. She does not play. So that's the name that I've been having since I've been teaching in the Legal Academy, that I don't play. But I challenge my students because I want them to be better. I got a chance to hang out with one of my girlfriends this week. I think romantic dates are amazing, but friendship dates are great too. So you should also date your friends. And I make sure I do that on a consistent basis. Romantic dates and friendship dates. Like, do both of them. So I got a chance to talk to one of my girlfriends, and it was great. And I think it ties into what I want to talk about today. And we just talked about, this idea of friendship and what does that look like. And I had to think about that, right? And so the question that I have, and this would be the title, are there any safe spaces created in your friendships, right? A safe space, this is how I define it. A safe space is it could be a person, it could be a place or a thing where you're able to be free. You're able to really express how you feel without the thought or without this idea that information may get leaked, may get exposed, right? Because you want to make sure that, hey, in these spaces, I'm able to really be me, express how I feel, and I know that no one else would not know about this. Are those spaces created? I even asked someone yesterday, I was looking at something on social media, and when you ask someone, how are you doing? They may say, hey, I'm good. And the video said, with most men, they'll say, I'm good, bro. And the guy was like, well, give me the long answer. What does that mean? And what someone told me is that it's all about being comfortable with that person. Because you may say, I'm good, bro, to one person, but the next person you may say, I'm not good, and here's why. And so, are those spaces created within your friendships? And if so, what does that look like? I know a few weeks ago, I talked about one of my friends asking me, well, who do I confide in? Because honestly, I'm that friend that most people confide in. Like, they'll come to me and say, you know what? You're easy to talk to. You listen. But I know you're not going to say anything, and I know you're not going to judge me. And so one of my friends said, well, who's your go-to person? Because I'm pretty sure that I go to you, but I know that other people go to you because you just create this space. I create this space for students, and I tell students, like, hey, this is a safe space. You can make mistakes here, right? I want you to make mistakes here compared to when you go out into practice. But the goal is you can make a mistake. There's no judgment. I'm going to show you how to become better. Within my friendships, how I create the safe space is that, hey, I'm not going to judge you. You can tell me the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to judge you. But if I realize that this is the same pattern over and over again, I'm going to say, well, who's holding you accountable? Like, did you know that this is not good? Or, how do you define good behavior versus bad behavior, right? There's no judgment. But I just want to make sure that you're not repeating these same cycles, right? Because our goal is to grow. And so what does those safe spaces look like? How are they created? Do they evolve? Do they change throughout the years, right? And how do you know that you're in a safe space? And if you feel like your friends are not giving a safe space, do you feel comfortable telling them? And then you have to ask yourself, do they have to create a safe space for you? And then that kind of ties into, well, what kind of friend are you talking about? Are you talking about just a friend you say hi and bye to? Are you talking about a friend that you had for years? Are you talking about like your best friend? Are you talking about like the ultimate best friend, right? No one can take this person's place. Like they're like up here. And then I realized that we had these expectations for friendships, and it makes me think, well, and we had these expectations for friendships. Will our friends ever meet those expectations, right? And I say that because most times when you have these expectations for people, they will let you down. I've learned to just, if I feel like it, to tell people, hey, this is what I need. And it's up to them to do it. And if not, I've learned to just accept them for who they are and just ask myself, is it enough? But in your friendships, are you thinking about the things that you need from this friend? And you should ask yourself, am I asking for too much? Or am I asking for little? What are you asking for? And is this a high expectation that someone can meet? And then you have to ask yourself, the things that I'm asking this friend for, can I reciprocate it? And that's what it's all about, right? I've learned that in this season of my life, reciprocation is important. I also learned that I'm not going to keep repeating myself. Like if I explain some things to someone and friendships and they just don't get it, I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. But reciprocation is important, especially in this season for me. It's important. And also when it comes to friendships, are you, the things that you require, are you able to give that back? And sometimes we have friends that they expect so much out of us, but they can't give anything in return. And honestly, that's unfair. And I don't think like your love should match exactly what the other person is giving you. But no, it's all about, if you're there for a person, can that person be there for you? And it may not be an even exchange at sometimes. And then it all goes to, well, when you're in dark places, right? Who's that friend that understands? Who's that friend that can empathize with you? And I told a friend one time, I said, you want people to show up for you, but you have to ask yourself a few questions if they can. Can they show up to you in the capacity that you need them to? Because some people don't. Like they may be able to reach out to you once a week. And that may be the best that they're doing because maybe they don't know how. Or maybe sometimes people are in dark places where as much as they want to be there for you, they can't because they don't know how to be there for themselves. I told my friends that if you are struggling for showing up for yourself, please don't show up for me. I don't care if I'm having the best birthday party ever, the bomb cookout. Don't. I care about my friends' mental health. That is top tier. That is number one. So if you can't show up for yourself, please don't try to show up for me. Don't even try to make me a card, even though I love cards. I want you to get better. And when you get better, then we can connect. Then we can celebrate. Then we can party. But until then, don't worry about me. So you have to really ask yourself, when it comes to friendships, are you getting what you need? And what does a friend look like? Because I think that, and I know that over the years, your idea of friendships will change. How you view the best friend in first grade will be different in your 30s, or different in your 40s, or different in your 50s. So you have to ask yourself, well, what do I need from my friends? What do I need? What does that look like? For me, I'm not that emotional friend. I'm not the friend that's going to call you crying all the time and need somebody to hug me. I don't need that. Most times I don't need that, right? I can control my emotions. I think for me, when it comes to emotion, I can't control it when there is something unexpected that happened, like a death, right? If it's a death that is unexpected for me and it's someone that's really close to me, that's when I need that support. Or if it's a death that's close to me and it was expected, but I wasn't ready, that's the support that I need. But a disagreement with someone or things not going well at my job, I don't need to cry to somebody. And I think most times for me is that I know how to control my emotions. I have a prayer closet. So if I go through things, I go right to my prayer closet. If I need to cry in there, I'll do that. Write something down, get my thoughts together. Then when I get my thoughts together, I'm able to have a conversation with someone. But you have to really ask yourself, well, what type of friend do I need? And then what type of friend am I? Am I that friend that's supportive, right? So if you want someone that's supportive, are you that friend that's supportive, right? What type of friend are you? Are you that friend that no one can hold you accountable, right? Are you that type of friend? Are you that type of friend that goes ghost and then reappear in 6 months because you're trying to process things? What type of friend are you? And are you a good friend? You have some people that are shitty ass friends. And sometimes they don't even know. They don't even know that they're a shitty friend. So what type of friend are you? Right? What type of friend are you? So think about that. So whenever you think about what your friends should give you, you should ask yourself, what are you giving them? What are you putting out in the atmosphere? What energy are you giving them? Because if you're not doing anything, do you deserve that? I thought about this today. And I believe in giving grace because I know that some people, we're all raised differently. We're raised to do certain things in different manners. And I just started to think, it's okay to give grace. But when do you stop extending grace? And I think this is something I want to talk about in Bible study. I know the Bible says forgive all the time and give grace. But when do you stop? Right? When do you stop? I had a conversation with my mom yesterday. And we talked about, it was actually Saturday. And we talked about our upbringing. It wasn't the prettiest. I come from humble beginnings. And I'm not ashamed of that. But the one thing that I told my mother was that although you couldn't give us everything that I thought that I needed at the time, I said, but what I will say is that I'm not going to judge you how you raised us, me and my brothers, because you did the best that you can with the tools that you have. Right? And I don't think there's no real manual on how to parent. Yeah, there's scriptures, right? There's scriptures to read. But what about examples? Like real life examples. And sometimes some people don't have that. But I said you did the best that you can. Now you have a grandchild. The things that you didn't do with us, you could do with her. But it's all about accepting people for who they are and knowing that, hey, they did the best that they can with the tools that they have. But what happens when people get these tools? Or they make a decision not to get the tools that they need to have a better life? Let's say, for example, someone knows they need to go to therapy. It's like blatantly clear. And they know that maybe they need medication. They know they need to sit in someone's chair. They talk about it a lot. And they know that because they're not going to therapy is very damaging to people that's around them. They know this. They see it. They can identify. But if they get the proper treatment, they'll have better relationships. And they decide not to. And I realized that you can only control the things that are within you, right? But when it comes to like mental health and you make the decision not to get help, I'm not sure how much grace I can extend. Not really sure how much grace I can extend. Like I can understand like, hey, you're going through it and hey, maybe you're trying to find the necessary treatment. Like you're working on it. But all you're doing is talking about it, but you're not moving forward. And then it makes me think like, how can I really keep extending this grace for you where you see these bad behaviors and you don't want to make the choice to change. You don't want to make the choice to be better. And so when I think about this idea of, yes, I believe in giving grace, but when do you stop extending grace? When do you stop, having pity parties for people, or just saying, hey, they're trying, but when do you get to the point and say, hey, this person doesn't want help? And the thing that I've learned this year is that I extend grace and I try to meet people where they are. But what I've learned is that some people are okay being stuck. And no matter how much you try to reach out and say, hey, hold my hand, they want to grab it. They want to. But deep down, they know that it's going to require work. I look at my friendships and different business relationships as stair steps, right? I want people that's doing better than me. I don't want to be in a circle where I'm the only one doing well. That's just not me. I want to be in this place where I'm on a stair step where there's people doing better than me. So I had something to look forward to, right? Something to look up to. And I want people that's on the same playing field as me, that aspires to be great. And then I'm okay with having friends or family members or associates that are not doing as well as me. So I can look back and say, hey, hold my hand, grab my hand, let me help you, right? Because the way I look at success is not about me doing well, right? I want everybody that's around me doing well. So as my hand is moving forward for someone to lift me up, my hand was always going backwards for me to help somebody pull them up. But I realized that there's people that no matter how much you have this hand back, are like, hey, hold my hand, grab my hand. They will never do it. They will never do it. And I started to look over people that I had in my life for some years. And I'm like, what changes have you really made? What changes have you really made? It makes me think about it. What does that look like? Is it a conversation? Or is it just really observation? And I've learned just because I don't say much, I observe every little thing. It's the empath in me. It's the introvert in me. I look at everything. I could be in a room and I pay attention to every little thing. The things that people may not pay attention to, I pay attention to it. So how much grace should be extended? What does that look like? The grace that you give to others, do you give it to yourself? Right? Do you give that to yourself? But the grace that you're giving to others, how much grace do you give them? I know what the Bible says, but when do you get to the point when you realize, hey, I keep extending this grace to you. I keep, trying to help you. I keep, trying to make an excuse saying, hey, you're trying. But when does it get to the point where you say, hey, I'm not going to just try. I'm going to actually do it. Right? When some people tell me, well, I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have this growing up. And the one thing that I've learned from me is that even though there's some things maybe I didn't have, I don't use that as an excuse, right? I don't use that as an excuse. Because most things that I've learned those as an adult. As far as cultivating relationships, having sustainable relationships, whether it's professional or personal. And even though there were some things I wasn't taught as a child, I made a decision that, hey, I'm going to learn those things. I was never taught about home ownership. Never taught about that. And I'm writing an article about that. And in my introduction, I make a reference to Boys in the Hood. And that was the first time I actually got a chance to see what gentrification looks like. But as far as home ownership, no one didn't talk to me about, oh, you need to buy a house at this age. You need to do this and that. I figured it out. So are there things in your childhood that you didn't learn that you're still blaming your parents for right now? Or are you going to say, hey, I'm going to give my parents grace. I'm going to give myself grace. And the things that they did not teach me, maybe because they didn't know. And maybe they just did the best that I can. And the things that they didn't know, can I be around other people that can teach me these things, right? And that's what I learned, right? And I just realized that no matter how much I had this hand back, saying, hey, I can help you. Hey, do you want help? And even though I may not be the resource, hey, if you grab my hand, just grab my hand. I can introduce you to someone that can help you. But I realized everyone doesn't want help. And everyone wants to do things on their own terms. But the question becomes, on your own terms, is it too late? Is it too late? Lastly, who's challenging you to be better? So remember, I'm having my hand back, trying to reach to help somebody. Then I have my hand forward to say, hey, pull me up, pull me up. And I had that conversation the other day. I was talking to my cousin. We were talking about business, like doing business together. And I was saying something like, hey, I want to do this. She was like, so when you going to do it? She said, I don't want you sitting on no plan and you're not executing. That doesn't make sense, sweetheart. You're working backwards because I'm trying to help you out. And I was like, look, I got $1 million dreams. And she was like, I know. But when are you going to move forward? So I told her, I was like, look, I got this plan. And I need to write it out. And she said, write it out. And I gave her a date. She said, okay. So I'm gonna put this in I even put this in my calendar. She said, yeah, put this in your calendar because we're going to talk about it. And she holds me accountable, And so I pray that if you have dreams and you're around people that create this safe space and they give you grace when you make mistakes, but also say, hey, I'm not going to keep extending this because you keep doing this fucked up shit, right? But I hope you're in these spaces where you feel comfortable. You're able to say, you know what? I'm not going to give you the short answer and say, I'm good, bro, or I'm good, sis. I'm going to tell you that, hey, life is just not easy for me. Life is just not going well right now, right? I hope that you're in those spaces, right? And I hope you're in those spaces where people are there for you, but also hold you accountable. I hope you're also in spaces where you're telling someone your dream and they're not jealous, but instead they want to figure out how can I help you. I think we all deserve those spaces. And I hope that if you don't have it, I pray that you do find it because you do deserve it and you should have it. That's all I have. This week is Thanksgiving, so this is a real short week for me. I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful that I forgive, and that's on a continuous basis. I'm thankful for being grateful. I'm thankful for giving myself grace because I give grace to other people. I'm thankful to wake up. It's one of the most precious gifts. I'm thankful for that. I had some family scares within the last 2 months, family being really sick. And I'm very thankful that God covered over them, right? Because if something happened to these family members, I wouldn't be the same. I'm thankful for my health, right? Your health is your wealth. I'm thankful for that. I'm in great health. I'm maintaining my weight, even though I have not been consistent with the gym. I need to go back, but I've been watching what I eat. I'm grateful to show love to people, even when it may be hard to do. I'm thankful that I still have living grandparents. My grandmom turned 80 this year, and it was a blessing because in her immediate family, her siblings and her parents never made it to 80. It's a blessing. I'm grateful and I'm thankful that I should have said this in October, but I'm grateful that I'm able to get mammograms. And right before the pandemic, I got genetic testing done to see if there's a chance that I can get breast cancer because it runs in my family. And it's a scary test, right? It's a scary test where the results can say, hey, there's a chance that you may get cancer. But I did it anyway. And although the test said, oh, there can be a 50% chance, I took the necessary steps to say, hey, I want to get checked out. I want to make sure I get mammograms. And don't get me wrong, it's sad that with doctors these days, is that even though you have a history, you still have to have a referral to show why you need it. And I had the best breast specialist in the world, pretty much, like one of the top ones. And she's awesome, and she's great. And I took those necessary steps, right? I want to live a long life. I want to live a healthy life. I want to live a healing life. I want to live a fulfilling and life that includes healing, forgiveness, love, peace, and joy. One of those things is make sure that my health is intact. And my doctors, at my doctor's office, I'm one of his healthiest patients. He tells me that all the time, like, you're one of the healthiest patients that we have. So I'm just thankful. I'm just so thankful for life. The mindset that I'm in right now, I wasn't in that mindset last year. So it's a good space. Even though I had to make most of the Thanksgiving dinner this week, I'm still thankful, right? I'm still thankful for just family, love, peace, just all those things. And I hope that, the holidays is tough for people, right? Because maybe they are dealing with grief. Maybe they lost a job, something. Maybe they lost something, or it's just not their self. And for those that are watching, and if you are going through something, despite everything that you are going through, I hope that you're able to just find one piece of happiness and look at and think about one thing that you're grateful for, one thing that you're thankful for. It could be something so big but so small, such as waking up. That's all I have. It is Monday, so I would like to shout out to all the dope men out there. You are amazing. You are great. You are phenomenal. And for the men, and I say this with love, that I hope that you do find safe spaces where you're able to express how you feel. Men do get depressed. Men do have anxiety. Men do get scared. Men do cry. Men do have emotions. And just know that that's okay. You're a man, but you're human. And I hope that the next time someone asks you, are you okay? I hope that you give them the long answer. Instead of saying, I'm good, bro, what does I'm good mean, bro? What does that actually mean? So I hope you're able to give people the long answer. And for the women, I hope that you say, instead of you saying, I'm good, explain what that means. Explain what that means. That's all I have. Have a great day. Have a great week. And have a great Thanksgiving if you do celebrate the holidays. Take care.